cocaine to be on this podcast? Cocaine. Cocaine, really? Cocaine. Cocaine, really?
What's up, everybody? You're listening to yet another edition of Cocaine Willie. I am your commissioner, Bob Trollsby, and as always, I am joined by my Fireball Matt Marcini, as the good chef Andre Navier is not here today. So we are a little bit shorthanded, but we've got a lot of fun in store for you either way. Before we get into the episode, I do want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Annie Mae's Parlor, which is located at 616 North 12th Street in the heart of Aggieville. And this beer crack is sponsored by them. Annie Mae's has been in business for 50 years, going on 51, and is an absolute must-visit destination in Aggieville on game days and school nights alike. Annie Mae's is by far and away our favorite destination in Aggieville. You've heard us a million times say the same thing, so I'm probably going to refresh the ad copy at some point, but nonetheless, it is still our favorite destination in Aggieville, and we always make a point to go visit our auntie anytime we go back to the Ville. Check out their website for a full list of their upcoming events. They've got craft beer, craft cocktails, everything that you could possibly imagine. And they've got all sorts of events, comedy, music, you name it, they've got it. I don't know what this is. We've got Hosty with Jeff Fonensteel. Fonensteel. That's January 23rd from 8 to 10. Come see the greatest one-man band on earth for free down in the Parlor. Prepare yourself for a night of comedy soaked in Texas boogie, filled to the brim with robots and civic awareness. That is Jeff Fonensteel, and he will be performing at Annie Mae's Parlor for free on January 23rd at 8 o'clock. Go to Annie Mae's, 616 North 12th Street, and be sure to tell them Cocaine Willie sent you. Matt, are you planning on going to the greatest one-man band on earth?
I can't make it. I wish I could. Being 450 miles away does pose some logistical hurdles to make that. But
it does.
I think everyone else should go and then at Cocaine Willie and let us know how it is.
Yeah. If you decide to go, send us a picture, tweet us, whatever. Tag us in your Instagram post. If people are still using that, I don't know. Let's get started. We're going to do some headlines first. We're going to have some fun tonight because Chef is dying of frostbite. God bless his soul. He's not dead, but his toes might be.
He's not dead. I
don't know. This is a bad day for Chef. So I hope he has fun listening to this, and I hope he gets better soon. Here, if you're listening to this, tweet at Chef like a gif of a fireplace or something warm, because that man was out working all day today in -3-degree weather in Columbus, Ohio. So tweet something like warm, like, I don't know, hot chocolate, fireplaces, anything like that to kind of
Venmo that man $1.
set the mood. And yeah, Venmo Brittany Napier $1.
At $1.
All right, so headlines for today. We've got three things we're going to chat about. First and foremost, Will Howard. We haven't talked about this guy a whole lot on the pod this year, rightfully so. He's not a K-State Wildcat anymore, although he is a Wildcat forever. The man graduated from K-State. He did play 4 years here, and there were times where it felt like an eternity, but he was a phenomenal quarterback in a Big 12 championship run that really, solidified his legacy at K-State and turned the tide on what was, I would say, a tumultuous tenure at quarterback, especially those first couple of years where we brought in Adrian Martinez after his sophomore year, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, going into that 2022 season. So Will Howard, he goes out with Ohio State. He wins a national championship and beats Notre Dame. 10-point game, right? If I remember right, 34-24. Ohio State covers, although it did get a little closer at the end there. But what are your thoughts on Will Howard winning a national championship? I'm a little bit in the camp of I'm happy for him. as an individual, I don't really give a shit about Ohio State. I'm happy for him that he gets that experience. And I do also have a little bit of like, damn, I kind of have that jealousy a little bit of like, damn it, come on, really? What are you feeling?
Well, it's very exciting. Obviously, I was rooting for Will Howard last night. And it's not as much rooting for Ohio State because in reality, I don't like Ohio State from a program perspective. I mean, I'm not a big fan of them as a program. But when Will transferred there, I always figured that was going to be a really competitive spot for him to potentially win a national championship based off of just the talent that was around him already. And he proved time and time again this season what he could look like with a really great receiving core, especially a group that works well with the running backs. I mean, the offensive, personnel on this Ohio State team does rival some historical college football teams that we've seen, in recent times. I mean, are they on par with 2019 LSU? I think that's tough to say, but they're really up there. And the most important thing I'm a fan of Will Howard and what he did at K-State. And the most important thing that I was really hoping for him wasn't necessarily a national championship, but is Ohio State going to get him to a position where he can move to the NFL and be a guy that will be rostered on an NFL team. I believe his performance this season, and especially in the playoffs, I mean, where all of college football's eyeballs are on you for every single game that they played, he looked like a guy that, I mean, he's not going to be a starter in the NFL by any means, but he looked like a guy that could easily be almost like a Chase Daniel type that backs up teams in the NFL for many, many years, and he's going to make some money. So I'm really happy for him. A lot of people, not a lot of people, but there are definitely people that have been very vocal about, should I be rooting for Will Howard to win a national championship? He's not with K-State anymore. Why put any emotional investment into one guy? And I'm always reminded of the video that somebody took at the end of the Iowa State game, his last game at K-State, where he's coming off the field.
It's in both, I think.
Yeah. And he's coming off the field, visibly emotional. And you just could see in his eyes and his, just how he was acting, how much K-State meant to him as a school. The 4 years that he put into the program, how much it meant to be out there on the field wearing purple. And, I always felt just he was going to be a K-State guy. He's going to be a K-State guy. I know he's going to be known as the Ohio State national championship winning quarterback, but I also believe he still appreciates and loves the K-State program. And as a fan, I think it was always, I was always going to be on the Will Howard bandwagon when he moved over there. So congratulations to him. I mean, it's great to just see the attention that he's getting. Not just because he's at Ohio State, but he showed that he was an extremely talented player while he was there. So again, congratulations to him.
So NFL wise, let's say he lands in the NFL. Who do you think is going to have a more decorated NFL career when we look back on it 15 years from now? Will Howard or Brock Purdy?
Oh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one because Brock Purdy has already played in a Super Bowl and led his team to a Super Bowl.
Right.
And the Brock Purdy situation was that doesn't happen very often. Not just a 7th round guy who gets kind of thrust in there, but he lucked out with the situation. with Trey Lance getting hurt early in the year. And it was just the right timing for Brock Purdy to be on the 49ers rostered as a quarterback. That I'm not saying Brock Purdy is not a talented quarterback by any means. There was a point in time where very early on, and he was having success, that I felt if Skylar Thompson got drafted in the 7th round by the 49ers and he played, it would be the same situation. He had talent around him that made plays and made him look good. I think Brock Purdy has shown he's improved in the NFL. So I'm going to say Brock Purdy in 15 years, we're looking back, that he's going to have a better career in the NFL, plainly because he's led the 49ers to the Super Bowl. But that doesn't put it in perspective that Will Howard could get drafted, I don't know, by the Dallas Cowboys or something like that, and Dak goes down again early, and the Cowboys have CD, and they've drafted
better than Cooper Rush. That's for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. The Cowboys maybe are a very poor example, but I
just want to see him reunited with Cooper and
Detroit Lions. Jared Goff goes down the second game of the year, and Will Howard's your backup quarterback. You think about the talent that you have in Detroit. Will Howard could probably lead the Detroit Lions, to some wins. It's all about timing and all about situations. But I think in a 15-year career, Brock Purdy is going to have more accolades, but Will Howard may have been a backup in the NFL for 8 or 10 years and made millions of dollars.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to watch and see where he ends up landing. I definitely think this playoff run is indicative of, I don't know, like a Max Duggan situation a little bit, where, hey, you see this guy ball out during the playoff run, winning all these games, winning by large margins, and clearly it's not, I don't know. I feel like with a lot of the conversation around Ohio State and Will Howard, it's a lot about how reliant that team is on the talent around him. But you saw last night, he's barreling through on QB design, QB power runs, and getting that first down to kind of ice out the game at the end of the game there. I think he's shown enough during this playoff run and also through the season with the wins that he had. Granted, a couple of moments where he Will Howarded, as if you will, similar to his freshman Will or sophomore Will that we saw from time to time. But you still had those really great highlight moments, and I think he proved that he can be a great pocket passer when he's got good talent around him, and he can also go out and I don't know, grit out a win and go down, and he puts his body on the line for sure. He has a lot of that effort factor, care factor, which has been a conversation so much around another team that we'll talk about here lately. But he has that, and some other folks don't. Depending, regardless of which team you play for, you've got both sides of it. I do want to get to Yokie. So this is the second headline that I've got here. Yokie's hurt. It's second time this season. It seems like it was an aggravation of the earlier injury that she sustained earlier this season, foot fracture, and Jeff Mittie was obviously pretty crestfallen in that press conference where he was talking about the injury, and sounded like it's going to be not necessarily a 1 or 2 week thing. It's going to be, hopefully she'll return before the end of the regular season, but it may not be until early March at this point. I'm not going to ask. That's a dumb question because it's obviously probably the most impactful thing that could happen to this team, injury-wise. But how does the team rebound from this? And when we think about this injury, how does that change your projection for where this team could end up by the end of the season? Because we're all thinking Big 12 championship, regular season, make a deep run in the Big 12 tournament, make a deep run in March Madness. Is that all still on the table for you, or do you think that that's severely hindered by the fact that she's going to be out?
Well, it's just kind of interesting because there are a lot of parallels to last season with Ayoka Lee going down earlier in Big 12 play, and you're having to really kind of make up a different game plan offensively and defensively with her missing. Now, the one thing that I will say you can compare to last year is this team is a lot this team is better offensively this year than they were last year, missing Ayoka Lee.
Yeah.
But this team is still really good on the defensive end. The Arizona State game, they gave up the most points that they had all season, gave up 69 points. But even so, Ayoka Lee has not played 38 minutes a game the entire year. She's been very
20 minutes, right?
on
she's
average. Playing, 20 minutes a game, 23 minutes a game. And this team has been so strong defensively without her playing a ton of minutes. And so I think the forward play on this team this season is better than last year. Now, in the Arizona State game, Eliza Maupin was absolutely huge in that game. She played 22 minutes. She had a really good presence on the court when she was out there. We didn't see that much of Kennedy Taylor. We didn't see that much of Amani Lester as much as we've seen them in earlier Big 12 games. Arizona State just wasn't a matchup where we were going to play some of those ladies as much. But Eliza Maupin fit in really well to kind of pick up some of the pieces there. Giselle Sanchez was also very big in that game. She's been kind of off and on this season, and it was important to kind of see her, just out on the court, getting some time. I know she's also she's been kind of easing with a hand injury that she had earlier this season. But I'm not saying that this team is just going to completely, do everything exactly the same like they have for the past, they've played 7 games in Big 12 play thus far. Mm-hmm. But I have a sense that on the offensive end, they're going to continue to, get better game after game. Scoring 81 points in this game. Tamira Poindexter has just been absolutely huge. And her out there, has definitely eased a little bit of my thoughts of where this team could be, because you really can go to her to be making some of these big shots. In the Arizona State game, she was 5 of 7 from 3, which absolutely huge. This team shot 54% from 3 in that game. So not to say I'm not worried, but I am a little bit more at ease on the offensive end. And then on the defensive side, you're just going to be seeing more of Amani Lester. She's a very tall presence on the court, able to get block shots inside. And Kennedy Taylor is going to have to, I think in some of these games, play significant minutes, 15, 20 minutes a game, along with Eliza Maupin, who, last year we saw shades of what she could do. The Baylor game was obviously a huge one where she just played absolutely incredibly in that game to win that on the road. So she's going to have to continue to develop positively through the rest of this time. I'm excited to see next year what she's going to become, in this role. But you look at the schedule. We play Colorado on Saturday. I think Saturday might be Sunday this weekend.
Saturday.
That's going to be a big game. Colorado obviously is a team that, we lost to in the second round of the NCAA tournament last year. Not to say they're, world beaters or anything like, last year they were a very, very good team. But it's a road game, and it's going to be the first road game that you're going to have without Ayoka Lee, in your lineup. There's a bunch of games coming up, but this is going to be an important one. This is a solid Colorado team, and so you have to go on the road and come up with a way to win. And just leading up, in a couple weeks, the big TCU matchup at home. So I still feel this team can win the Big 12. I think the talent and what we've seen so far, they've been just so good defensively. They'll find a way to continue that defensive mindset, and that's going to help them win games when they're off on the offensive side. But they've also shown offensively they could have a 6-minute spurt where they go on an 18-2 run. That has happened in a bunch of games this year too.
Yeah, it has.
And it hasn't, some of those runs haven't necessarily even included Ayoka Lee scoring.
The Arizona game, long story short, I had to go to the pharmacy to pick up, because Charlie was sick last week. I had to go to the pharmacy to pick up an antibiotic for an ear infection. I got home, and I think the game was a 4-point game when I got home. And in between the time that I went from my car to set down the meds, I think there was I set some other things around. It was like 2 minutes, and they were up like 10, 15 points again already. And I was just shocked by it. And I know a lot of people have pointed at that game and the Arizona State game as examples of like, it's not looking quite as good. But to your point, it's almost like an NBA team where they can go on a 20-point run, and it just, the whole tide of the entire game shifts in an instant. And a lot of that is in part because of Yokie, but at the same time, you've mentioned some of the other pieces. You mentioned Eliza Mop and Amani Lester. Like, they're all going to be critical, and we're going to have to get 100 and 110% out of every single one of those players down the stretch here, because we're now at that stretch of the schedule where we were looking at this in the offseason and in the non-conference and saying that's when things are going to really pick up. And Colorado, they haven't quite had the conference record that we maybe would have thought they would have had at this point in time, being 3-4 as opposed to K-State 7-0 right now. But Colorado, Iowa State, KU, TCU, that is a murderer's row right there. And KU, not the best team, but it's a rivalry. Like, it's going to be a situation. They're going to bring the juice as they do every year. So you're going to have to come ready to play. I think it's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be a fun few games here. If you're in Colorado or planning on making the trip, I unfortunately won't be there. I will be in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, skiing.
Tisk.
But that game's at 1:00 Mountain Time in Boulder at the CU Event Center, formerly known as the Coors Event Center, which is an objectively cooler name. But who am I? Who am I to say? But yeah, Audi Crooks, Iowa State, they're coming down the pipe right after that. And there's no midweek game this week. So it's going to be good to get that rest, get some of that relaxation. Hopefully, if anybody does have any nagging injuries, a couple extra days to kind of recoup and get back to 100% going into those matchups, because that's not going to be an easy stretch by any means.
Nope.
Last one, and certainly least, the men's team came up short in Allen Fieldhouse, although they did cover. Good teams win, great teams cover. I did not have money on KU in that one. I believe you did.
Oh yeah.
I had no skin in the game, but I was texting y'all a little bit about this on the group chat, but at some point in the first half, I was like, guys, I just want to see David Castillo at this point. I want to see some of the younger guys, see them get some exposure, and let's hand the ball and hand the game and the entire game plan over to guys that we know are bought in, who are going to be here next year, or we're at least going to try to retain next year. And we saw pretty good effort from David Castillo, especially defensively. That's where he really shined for me. He got a 3-pointer that I feel like really got some of that confidence going that maybe he was missing for the first half of the season here. I guess just gut check and reactions to the game in Allen Fieldhouse. And does it give you any kind of positivity going forward, or is it still just bad all around?
That's a fair question. I feel a little bit better than I did Tuesday night after the Tech game. Now the 14-0 KU start to this game, automatically I was just like, this team could easily lose by 40 in this arena. With just, and it wasn't even, it was just offensively, you're not making shots. I wouldn't even say they were bad shots when you're not making the high percentage plays and turning them into points. It's usually not going to be a good sign on the road, not even just at Allen Fieldhouse, but anywhere. I was pleasantly surprised with the fight that they did have in the second half. And I think it's fair to say I do feel better about pieces of this team. That being said, there's a couple guys that I'm just kind of, CJ Jones is just one of these guys that I'm struggling with. He's lost a lot of minutes the past handful of games, especially to, David Castillo. And And that's admittingly, it's I do feel David Castillo deserves some of the minutes because he has a lot to learn, but he's showing some fight. He's showing some grit. Um, he played 23 minutes in that game. And if Coach Tang and this coaching staff have the it's not gall, but if they have the, if they have the thought process of David Castillo on the court is going to give us a chance to win the game. I liked what we saw out there. And even in the time that he had with Doug McDaniel, it was very interesting. I mean, having two undersized guards out there, I like some of the pieces there that we saw. I'm going to give a lot of props to Coleman Hawkins. Played every single minute in this game. He had a double-double. I mean, he was three rebounds away from a triple-double. For everything that Coleman Hawkins says, everything that's been said about him this year, he does look like a guy that loves playing basketball and enjoys being out there on the court with these guys. He's a fiery guy. He's a passionate guy. Obviously his personality, a lot of people can have differing opinions on his personality, but he is just such a very good basketball player. Just the vision that he has, I'll be interested to see how it translates to the next level. He's so tall. If he was like 6'4", I mean, he'd go first round. He would have been a first round point guard. His vision's just so good. So I feel better than I did on Tuesday because it did just give the mindset of they're trying, they're trying. They still don't fit necessarily like all together. Like the pieces aren't there, but the effort, especially in the second half, was there. I mean, to get it to a 6-point game, KU wasn't making a lot. Like KU was doing some dumb things to get us in that position, but this is a team that, based off of the kind of the sample size we've seen this season, where they've been down early, they do come back. But they didn't have it in the mind. They didn't have it in the back of their minds, like we're folding or we know we're going to lose. They showed the effort. Not like I was expecting we were going to go in now in Fieldhouse and win that game, because we never do. I did think KU was going to blow us out of the water at the beginning of, not before the game. I just didn't think this was a team that was mentally strong enough to keep it close there. That's on me as a fan.
What was the alternate spread that you got again?
23.5. I was like,
and I would have thought the same thing, because I went into that game with the thought process of this is going to be bad, but I'm still going to watch this because I hate myself for some reason enough to watch this. And then they did surprise me. They pleasantly surprised me in a lot of ways. And I'm not feeling positive about the team still. I'm not feeling positive about where the season's headed or the fact that it's a lost season, but this is the kind of stuff that you have to do. And these are the things that you have to see and pull out of a game like that, going into hopefully an off-season rebuild where you can build around the pieces that you have that you're going to retain, that are going to be bought in, and try to find some pieces out there. And I don't know, you're going to have to scrap, because a lot of that NIL is going to go away. You're going to have to scrap and try to find some talent out there that's undiscovered and under-recruited, and try to Bill Snyder this thing again and see what we can put together, I think.
The revenue sharing piece I isn't necessarily going to put us in I think a bad situation from an NIL perspective. I think we're going to have a similar war chest situation. It's not, I'm calling it a war chest because that's what people have called it, but we're still going to be in a position next year where if there are guys that they want to bring in, I believe we'll be competitive enough to do it because of the revenue sharing aspect of everything. The guys that I would want to keep on this team, I mean, obviously David Castillo, I see flashes that he's going to be able to the minutes he's getting in Big 12 play against this type of competition are absolutely vital, and he's going to continue to get better. I do see the flashes there. Brennan Housen, Um, Doug is an interesting one. The reason why I say he's an interesting one, despite everything that we've heard about him this season, the times he is on the court, he does impress me for the most part. I think he has looked very good with David Castillo as well. Having two undersized guards, is that trouble? Who knows? But they've played decently well together. And so in the last, however many games, how much are we going to see them on the court together? I hope a decent amount. And I hope that allows Doug to shine a little bit more and puts us in a position where, he can get better. And then Hugo Onyenso, it still boggles the mind how there are games where we don't see him, and then he comes out for 13 minutes, and just the 7 foot comes out, and we see some nice plays from him. And so there's pieces that I hope that we keep. We're not doing a full scale rebuild to go for next year, but look, I for the people that are wanting Jerome Tang to be fired, he's not going to get fired. It's not happening. Nobody's shelling out $18 million for that.
No.
So from a support perspective, like, you can have your own opinion about it. I'm still going to watch men's basketball for the most part. This is a lost season definitely. And so you're just looking at some of the positives of, okay, who are some guys that you can have a restart with for next year, but you keep some of the talent and you keep some of the guys from continuity perspective. Somebody made the comment about Houston, or maybe it was him, Coach Tang, but
it was.
He has a great point. I mean, Kelvin Sampson has done an excellent job of building a program and keeping guys year after year in Houston. I think it's
not the first time he said that either, because he made the same comment about Drake, and that rubbed me and a lot of people the wrong way, because it's like, dude, we have documentation that you have actively pushed out players from the program and kind of chased guys off. And that's why it's kind of like, you have to practice what you preach. If this is what you want the model to be, we can't keep having these consistent rebuilds year in and year out of where you're retaining one or two guys from the previous roster.
Yeah. And a lot of it's going to come with development too. I mean, these Houston guys that do stay in the program, they're seeing past players who have developed as a freshman and what they've done as a senior. And this year is a great example of that. Obviously they brought in Milo Suzanne from Oklahoma, but Emmanuel Sharp has been there. Juwan Roberts has been there.
LJ Cryer, he's been there almost 3 years now, I think, right?
LJ Cryer's been there 2 years. It's just stuff like that where obviously the transfer portal changes your mindset of how to build a program. But in the grand scheme of things, if you can have a good baseline going into a season, that's going to help you with, number one, kind of understanding how you're going to be able to put together a team, but what type of team you want to put together. So I take some of that and, hope that some of these players will stay. Hopefully they can maybe pick off a couple teams this year, the rest of the way. And we'll just kind of see how it goes.
Yeah, I think the thing that we're missing right now is being able to get a win against a good team. And we've got the win against Cincinnati. We don't have any good wins against any other good talented teams out there. I think if this team can grit out a win and get something going against good competition, maybe it's tomorrow against Baylor. Maybe it's, against Iowa State or someone. I don't know, dude. Baylor's hurt right now. Baylor's pretty. I
know. I don't think this team's going to win a game on the road. No matter who they play. I think your best bets are going to be like a West Virginia team that,
sure,
like, they've had their highs in games like that, but they've also, are they a top 25 team? Yes, with the teams that they beat. But that's a team that, next week or this weekend, they could pick that game off. KU, I know it's early in Big 12 play, and we always say this about KU and early in Big 12 play, but they don't look as strong as Iowa State or Houston. Obviously Arizona has really kind of turned things on with Big 12 play. KU hasn't necessarily looked like they're at the top of the Big 12 right now. That could be a game. Yeah, I mean, no matter the type of team that we've had, it's always a competitive game. So there's some games that I think they could pick off at home. I don't think they're a team. I don't think K-State's a team that's going to win a game on the road. They just don't necessarily look like a team. They don't look like they can finish games on the road. By finish, either finish a first half or have something in the second half and finish the game. So I don't know. We'll kind of see. Tomorrow night, or the Baylor game, I don't have confidence that they're going to go on the road, even with a depleted Baylor team, and win. But who knows?
I'm not saying it will happen, but it could happen. Anything is possible, in the words of Kevin Garnett. So, all right, that's going to do it for us tonight. We're going to have another episode later this week featuring no dumb questions, a bunch of Q&A, and we're just going to have fun with that one. But that's going to do it for the headlines episode. Once again, shout out to Anti-Maze Parlor. Visit them at www.antimaze.com for a full list of their upcoming events. And if you're stopping by before, after, during the games, if they're home, the road, wherever, if you're going to Anti-Maze, if you're seeing Jeff Fonesteel, the greatest one-man band on earth, tell them Cocaine Willie sent you. Additionally, we are the K-State representative on the College Huddle, which is the largest community of fan-driven content in the nation. Check them out at thecollegehuddle.com and follow them on social media at College Huddle. And last but not least, you can follow our show at Cocaine Willie on YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, or follow us individually. I'm at Bob Trollsby. Chef is on his couch, and Fireball Matt is at Matt Marchesini. Matt.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug, baby.
We are all coke and no joke. Wildcat country.
Let's
ride.